Hello, welcome to any community. In this particular video, we are going to discuss the concept of Ikigai and principles of Roga Nidana. Earlier, we have discussed the concept of Ikigai and Ayurveda. Here, we are going to discuss the concept of Ikigai in terms of one particular subject of Ayurveda, that is Roga Nidana. The term Ikigai refers to a reason for being. So, why So we are going to do the work in that particular subject. So the actual reason or reasons that will be very well known to that particular individual. That is what we can say the Ikigai as such. So this is a continuous process. If one person starts to think about that particular term Ikigai in one's life, so that may take in some individuals very early, but that may take in some individuals it may take even much longer amount of time. But the thing is, so there are four factors that one has to think about whenever if a person is thinking about one's Ikigai. What actually you love, so what are the things, what are the activities you like to do, that is considered to be the, you need to know about the list of that. What you are good at, what are the major skills do you have, that should be known. And if at all, if you make a particular service or product, etc., whether the surrounding people are able to provide the, what do you say, that the payment for it, that should be known. And what is the world actually needs, what are the present trending areas in the subject of Roga Nidana. If all these four factors, if a person is skilled, if a person is looking into those four areas and working on one particular area, which a person is mostly able to do that, capable of, that is actually deciding one's Ikigai. So when you think about the, what, the four areas, first of all, we need to know what you actually love to do. So that is actually considered to be the areas wherein a person is actually passionate to do the activities. So here there are certain lists as such. The person may be loving to learn deeply in terms of Ayurveda fundamentals. Maybe the person is actually learning about the concept of Ama, learning about the concept of Agni, or learning about the concept of Samprapti, or learning about the concept of Nidana, learning about the concept of Rogi Pariksha, or learning about the concept of Prakriti, etc. So that is what we can say, that is about the Ayurveda fundamentals. So that is being specifically mentioned in the Ayurveda aspect. Or otherwise, the learning about the certain specific diseases, for example, Amavata or Tamakashwasa or Pakshaghata, etc. So learning deep either regarding the, what do you say, that the um, fundamentals of Ayurveda. Then identifying the Nidana. What actually the person is having the actual Nidana Sevana or exposure to etiological factor. Some persons may be having the exposure to dust. Some persons may be having the exposure to smoke. Some other persons may be having the exposure to abnormal diet as such. Some other persons may be having the exposure to, what do you say, that the excessive incompatible food substances, or some others may be having the exposure to excessive sexual intercourse, wherein the possibility of the reproductive system diseases that may be common there. In that way, identifying Nidana as such. So, in the sense, whether this particular Nidana, or what we can say, pathogens, what kind of the activities they are doing inside the body. So, that is identifying that particular Nidana as such. That is the another area. The person who is actually learning the subject of Roga Nidana, they can able to explore. Further, Rogi Pariksha analysis. What kind of the Pariksha analysis? That means what actually the Nadi Pariksha is, how to do Nadi Pariksha, and what are the Mala Pariksha as such. What do you mean by Mutra Pariksha? How to do Prakriti analysis. or how to analyze the, what do you say, that the Ashtasthana Pariksha. What do you mean by Prashna Pariksha? All these aspects that is considered to be Rogi Pariksha analysis and application of physics, chemistry, and biology. So that means application of basic science in terms of the Ayurveda fundamentals. It's also one of the huge area. Here, for example, the concept of Starling forces. So that means the pressure gradient present in the capillaries, which are being exerted by the water and electrolytes and proteins. So that is application of that, or otherwise application of the, what do you say, that the mass or movement as such. So that is the basic science in terms of the Ayurveda fundamentals, that is considered to be a major area. Whereas public awareness, which is considered one of the very important area wherein the Roga Nidana expert should they concentrate on. Because whenever if you think about the whole world population, nearly around the 8 billion population in the sense, hardly 10% are having the actual idea of what do you say that the Rogan, what do you say that Ayurveda actually, what is its capabilities. Even still, much less people are knowing about the importance of Roga Nidana. So that is public awareness in terms of knowledge about the Tamakashwasa. What actually Tamakashwasa is? What are the uh, causes of Tamakashwasa? Why Tamakashwasa may be observed in specifically certain people only? Why certain people are not getting Tamakashwasa despite the people are residing in the same area where the person suffering from Tamakashwasa may be residing? In that way, the creating the public awareness itself, creating the social media awareness. Nowadays, the most people who are tech savvy, they are now coming to the social media frequently. Their screen time is much more higher. Sometimes they are spending more than 4 hours or 5 hours a day on social media itself. So that is the creating the social media awareness regarding the Roganidana is another major area, or rather video making. In the sense, the creating the video itself is one of the major area where one can able to concentrate upon. Educating the students, maybe educating the students of the Ayurveda itself, or the students who are in the high school level, what the Ayurveda education to them, and students of specific engineering students, or the students of the medical professionals, conventional medical professionals. So that is educating them in the right proper manner in terms of the Roga Nidana is another major area. What if you are loving to do that as such? Research and development, one of the very dry area as far as the one can able to, if you are loving in that particular area, we can able to on work on that particular part also. Emerging diseases, in the sense the nowadays when you think about the new and newer, what is a diet and lifestyle, newer diseases are more common. 5 days back, I encountered the one of the pandemic, that is COVID-19. So like that, emerging diseases, its management as far as the uh, Ayurveda is concerned, that is identifying that particular emerging diseases as per the point of Ayurveda, Roganidana point of view, etc. That is actually one area where you can able to work on that part. If you are loving that, then you can have that particular area also. Lifestyle pattern recognition. So regarding the late night watching the movies is one of the lifestyle that is being prevalently observed in the present day individuals. Or otherwise, they consuming the food at around 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. or 12 p.m. That is another area wherein lifestyle pattern recognition can be made, which actually considered to be responsible for the total derangement of health as such. When you think about the further Rogi Pariksha analysis, so here what actually regarding the, let us take the Prakriti itself. If you are very keen about, if you are loving about the Rogi Pariksha analysis, these are the possible ways of further narrowing down your niche as such. For example, Prakriti analysis of specifically IT professionals. If you are working on that, that is the huge area wherein the people can make their or reschedule their behaviors in such a way that they can able to excel in their outcomes or other activities as such, or otherwise Prakriti analysis for school children as such. Another major area regarding the giving the, what do you say, that the suggestions or giving the appropriate uh, suggestions to the their studying pattern as such. Prakriti for working women, so that they can able to better their uh, they can able to improve their working lifestyle. Regarding the Prakriti analysis for housewives, so in that way, Rogi Pariksha analysis may help. Even if you are working on that particular part, there is a huge area where you can able to uh, improvise yourself. Let us take one more example, that is education. Education of Roga Nidana or Ayurveda in adolescents, how they can able to identify their abnormal functions as such, or the lifestyle deviations, how that can be materialized so that normal health can be attained for longer amount of time. Education of the subject in hotel industry people, how that is the exact food pattern, the creating the different types of the food, how that is helpful in maintaining the health or in changing their, the disturbing their health as such, giving the exact idea. Education of housewives on the subject as such, how that is the kitchen, the appliances, how that the kitchen ingredients that will be helpful in maintaining one's health or in disturbing one's health as such. For example, the consumption of dadhi or curds at night time, most of the occasions that may be considered to be responsible for the running nose or blockage of the nose, or otherwise the maybe a possibility of the paranasal sinus subflexion. In that way, giving the appropriate idea as such, or spreading the education on the subject on YouTube, or otherwise educating the Western medicine doctors, or otherwise even educating the osteoarthritis individuals. So, like that, education itself, whenever if you think about it, even n number of lists can be prepared. If you are working on that particular part, if you are loving to do that, that is one area where you can able to think of. Or otherwise, the next area, what is considered to be what you are good at. So that is, there are certain, this is actually concentrating upon your skills as such. Regarding the Nidana identification, what type of the Nidana the person is going to consume, whether it is Nija Nidana or Agantuja Nidana, or whether it is considered to be responsible for the Adhyatmika Vikara or Adibhautika Vikara or Adidaivika Vikara as such, or otherwise the identifying whether it is Sannikrishta Hetu or Viprakrishta Hetu or Pradhanika Hetu or Vyadhi Hetu as such. So that is identifying the Nidana itself. That is one area. If you are skilled at, then it is very easy for you to move ahead as such. Predicting the Samprapti. That means what actually the pathogenesis is going to take place, where and all the possibility of entry of the pathogen is happening, what kind of the disturbances that's happening inside the body. That is predicting the Samprapti. If you are good at, there is a one area as such. Identifying Pratyatma Lakshana. That is the most cardinal feature, which is helpful in deciding the actual Srotas afflicted, or the system that is going to afflicted in the body, which body system is being afflicted, that can be predicted as such. Ayurveda Roga Pariksha, Rogi Pariksha. So that means in Ayurveda there are specific pariksha are being mentioned. For example, Aptopadesha Pariksha or Pratyaksha Pariksha or Anumana Pariksha or otherwise Yukti Pariksha or otherwise Ashtasthana Pariksha or otherwise Dashavida Atura Pariksha, etc. So that is one set. If you are skilled in that, you can move in a better way in terms of the diagnosis of the disease as such. Research methodology. So it is being said even after the my teacher used to say that regarding the research as such, after 30 plus years of service in the subject, he used to say that even 0.1% of the work is not being done in the subject of Roga Nidana after 33 years of experience as such. So that is even holds true even now also. We have to work on that particular area. If you are good at, there is a big scope in that particular area also. Regarding the physical examination skills is a, if you are good at, there is a huge area there you can able to narrow down your niche as such. Regarding the laboratory investigations in terms of the Ayurveda interpretations. So what actually the Rakta is, how we are going to do the analysis of Rakta, the abnormalities of Rakta, how to identify the Visrata or Dravata or Raga, etc. etc. Fundamentals of Roga Nidana. So that is how to identify the Roga Marga afflicted. What do you mean by the actual Nidana afflicted? How to frame out the Samprapti? How to identify the Pratyatma Lakshana, etc. etc. Fundamentals of Roga Nidana. Communication skills regarding the uh, how to interact with the patient, how to interact with the patient's relatives, how to interact with the siblings, how to interact with uh, the parents of uh, the family members of the deceased person, etc. That is communication skills. So that is the one area if you're good at. There is the specific area where you can able to narrow down your niche. Teaching skills regarding the how to teach you the information that you are knowing to the students or to the patients or to the relatives of the patients, etc., etc., or the physics, chemistry, and biology application. If you are good at, there is another huge area which can open up there. That is application of basic science and Roga Nidana as such. So here, let us look into the two different aspects. One, that is the predicting the samprapti. What particular dosha is being afflicted? That is, whether is it vata dosha afflicted or pitta dosha is afflicted or kapha dosha is afflicted. Depending upon the lakshana, depending upon the clinical features observed, we can able to identify. So for that, you need to know about what are the different lakshana the person may be having and which lakshana occurred first, which lakshana occurred next. As such, that will be helpful in predicting the possible dosha affliction and possible the samprapti we can able to frame out. Then what particular pathogen is entering into the body, in which particular part, whether is it in the mouth or whether is it in the nose or whether is it in the eyes or whether is it in the ears or whether is it in the anus or urethra or vagina or breasts as such. So the entry of pathogens from there, that will be producing the typical clinical features itself. So understanding the actual compartment where the possible pathogenesis is happening, whether is it in the alimentary canal or whether is it in intravascular compartment or whether is it in the interstitial compartment or whether is it in the intracellular compartment. So that is identifying that itself is a very big task as such. If you are, we can work on that particular part. What is avayava vikriti? Which particular avayava is being afflicted? Whether is it amasha is being afflicted, or whether is it in the pakvasha is being afflicted, or whether is it hridaya is being afflicted, or whether is it basti is being afflicted, or whether is it shiras is being afflicted, or whether is it sandhi is being afflicted, etc. Identifying avayava vikriti itself, or the samprapti or pathogenesis is happening in which particular bahya srotas and abhyantara srotas. So that is, as such, we have discussed regarding the Abhyantara Srotas, which particular Abhyantara Srotas is being afflicted. There is it Pranava Srotas afflicted, or Purishava Srotas afflicted, or Rasava Srotas afflicted, etc. etc. and Samprapti in Kriyakal identifying. So that is whether this particular pathogenesis is happening in the Sanchaya stage itself, or whether is it in the Sthana Samshaya stage, or whether is it in the Vyakta stage or Bheda stage. So that is how, if you are working, if you are good at these areas, then diagnosis of the disease will be very, very easy. When you think about the second aspect, that is Ayurveda Roga Pariksha, Rogi Pariksha. For example, here, examination of Pranavaha Srotas. How to examine the individual who is suffering from the illness related to Pranavaha Srotas, that will be giving you the more avenue or deep dive understanding so that we can able to excel in that particular field itself, or gaining skills in case of the interviewing, how to fetch the necessary information from the patients, how to fetch the information from the, what do you say, that the patient's relatives, etc., or assessment of sattva pariksha. So that is identifying one's manas itself. So that is itself is a major area where you can do well if you are skilled in that particular part. Nadi pariksha, another major area where one can able to deep dive knowledge if you are working on that particular area continuously. Physical examination skills, how to do the physical examination of in terms of the conventional medicine, in terms of the Ayurveda understanding also, or assessment of the patient of Amavata, how to analyze the different lakshana, how to grade the lakshana of the patient of Amavata. What is the first lakshana observed in the patient of Amavata as such, that will be dealt or that will be done in a better way if you are knowing the Ayurvedic Rogi Pariksha properly, or predicting the Sadhya Sadhyata. So that is another major issue. If you are able to do that, or if you are skilled it in that particular the assessment of Sadhya Sadhyata, then it is considered to be helpful in the diagnosis of the disease accurately. Regarding the what you can be paid for, that is identifying the prognosis of the disease, how far the person who's suffering from the disease, how far that will be considered to be curable, up to how many days that is curable. That is, if you are knowing that, then there is a possibility that the you can be getting the monetary benefits out of it. Or diagnosis tool development, which is one of the very gray area where you can work on that particular part as such. Nadi assessment, the assessment of the Nadi as such, or educational videos. So then, in terms of the fundamentals understanding, what actually dosha is, how to identify this rotodushti, how to identify the ama presence in the body, whether is it localized or generalized clinic, the presence is there or not, identifying that particular part, or book or ebook writing as such, or video course content creation, or short film creation regarding the concept, or podcasts. So these are the area where you can work on that particular part and you can get the possible monetary benefits out of it. When you think about the educational videos, in terms of concept of Nidana, in terms of Rogi Pariksha related video, or in terms of terminology related videos, or in terms of animated video content creation, or in case of case scenario related videos, YouTube channel creation, videos for medical professionals, or videos for research scientists. In that way, if you are working on that, then there may be a possibility of monetary benefits out of it. Or in terms of what the world needs, regarding the Roga Nidana point of view, regarding Nidana identification is considered to be the very, very important important area where the world presently needs regarding that aspect. Rogi Pariksha skills. So, regarding the Nadi Pariksha assessment, research updates, diagnostic and protocols tools development, then PCB application, that is physics, chemistry, and biology, basic sciences application, and Roga Nidana fundamentals, or right Ayurveda diagnosis. These are the areas what the world needs specialization now. Now, when you think about the right Ayurveda diagnosis as such, identifying the dosha and disease. So, what particular dosha is being afflicted if a person is presented with any kind of the discomfort as such? Then identifying the dosha and in terms of srotas affliction. Methods of diagnosis in Ayurveda and prognosis assessment in Ayurveda. How far the disease is sadhya or asadhya, or how to identify the right nidana exposed in an individual, how to frame out the samprapti as such, how to interpret the information mentioned in the Ayurveda textbook. These are the different uh, areas of right Ayurveda diagnosis now the world needs. Look into these areas so that you can develop your own content as such, so that the actual Ikigai, if you're working on this particular part, you can uh, work on these areas as such. When you think about the further regarding the passion, what you love and what you are good at, if you're continuously working on that particular part, then it becomes your passion. For example, if you are loving to do the teaching, and if you are good at writing, that is writing the in the magazine or becoming a freelancer or writing in the social media or blog post or website as such, so that can be your passion as such. When you think about the profession as such, what you are good at, for example, if you are good at writing and what can be paid for, if you are looking working on educational video as such, that is writing the scripts for videos can be your profession. Or otherwise, what could be your vocation as such, if the what you can be paid for and if the what the world needs, if that matches, that becomes your vocation. For example, if the what the world needs is educational video, what can be paid for, that is right Ayurveda diagnosis, in the sense in that particular occasion, the vocation could be how to make videos of methods of diagnosis in Ayurveda. So that be your vocation as such. And if your mission, that is what you love and what the world needs, if that matches, that becomes your mission. So that is what you love is teaching and what the world needs is right Ayurveda education. Then providing the right Ayurveda education in a precise way. For example, in cases of the school or in case of corporate sector, that can be your mission as such. Suppose there are all the four areas, you may be skilled at any one, two, or three, wherein the one area where you are not be skilled at, in that particular situation, what will happen? Suppose if you are knowing what you love, and if you are knowing what you are good at, and if you are knowing what the world needs, if you are not knowing what the world pays to you, then there may be a possibility of a delight and fullness, but wealth will not be there. For example, if you are knowing to do ebook writing on clinical methods of Ayurveda, but if you're writing on the communication skills only, then the what do you say that the wealth may not be possible in that particular situation. Suppose if you are knowing what you love and if you are knowing what you are good at, and if you are creating what can be paid for, but if you are not creating what the world actually needs, then it may be leading to a satisfaction, but feeling of uselessness may be there. For example, world wants actually Ayurveda diagnosis, and you are preparing the diagnosis tools based on the conventional medicine. You are not concentrating upon the fundamentals of Ayurveda, then this may lead to the feeling of uselessness may be possible. Suppose if the you are knowing and you are working on what the world needs and you know what you can be paid for and you are knowing what you are good at, but you are not working on what you love, then there may be a possibility of a emptiness. For example, working in a well-reputed institution where teaching is taken very seriously and you are doing the teaching as your duty but not as a passion, then there may be a possibility of emptiness may be possible. Or otherwise, you are knowing what you love and you are working on what the world needs and you are working on what you can be paid for, but you are not working on what you are good at, then there may be a possibility of uncertainty may be possible. For example, working in the OPD, if you are not good at communication skills or physical examination skills, then there may be a possibility of the uncertainty may be possible. So like that, so this Ikigai in the sense when your passion, that is what you love and what you are good at, your mission, what you are good at and the world needs, your profession, what you are good at and what you can be paid for, and the vocation, what you can be paid for and what the world needs. If all these are meeting at one particular point, that becomes your Ikigai as such. For example, you know that what you love. You are loving to do video making and you are knowing what you are good at. For example, you are knowing you are good at communication skills and what can be paid for video course creation. So that is you are knowing there may be a possibility of video course creation, there may be the possibility and what the world needs, that is interpreting information mentioned in the Ayurveda textbook regarding a particular disease. So you are knowing these are the four areas where you can you are knowing these as such. So that means then your Ikigai could be making the videos on Amavata, for example, deceased individuals, informing about the proper Pathya and Apathya. That becomes your Ikigai as such. This how we can able to make the identify one's Ikigai as such. Dear NA community, what are the major key takeaways from today's discussion, which is helpful in identifying one's Ikigai, which may not happen in a day or two. Sometimes it may be a continuous process wherein some persons may identify very soon, some persons may identify much later. So that becomes your Ikigai. What are the major key takeaways from today's discussion? Mention in the comment box below. And what is the one video that you'd like to hear in the coming days in this particular channel? Mention in the comment box below and spread this particular video to maximum number of true Nidana learners so that we can make a huge movement out of this particular small message. That's all for today. Something more in the next video. Thank you.